Welcome, everyone. I'm Rebecca Snyder, the Executive Director of Executive Alliance, and I am delighted to have you all here at our third Retool and Reframe session. This is a series that helps us all kind of rethink 2021, and we have various wonderful speakers talking to us about how we can do that. So today we have Dr. Pamela Love Manning, who is going to talk to us about how to live life with fewer regrets. So Dr. Pam is a proud member of Executive Alliance, and she's the president of a training, coaching, and leadership consulting company for organizational leaders and aspiring leaders, programs that serve at-risk populations and women with a trauma history. She has over 25 years of training and consulting and leadership development experience. She's also taught undergraduate and graduate courses for a number of universities in both Maryland and California, and has been the chair of a university board and served in a variety of other leadership roles. She's also a published author, so I would check out It's All About Love, Living Your Purpose in Spite of Your Past. She's also written I Want My Vagina Back, which I think has a fun backstory, which maybe she'll tell us later. And See You at the Finish Line, Cultivating the Mindset of a Finisher, and Life Happens, But You Can Finish. So I'm delighted to have her with us today.
Good morning to everyone. Great to see you all this morning for Living Life with Fewer Regrets. I want to greet all of the members and any guests. Shanetta, it's been a while. We'll definitely have to catch up. And you're going to hear me talk more about Tony and I and some of the work that we have been doing over the years related to this topic of living life with fewer regrets. And so I want to share a little bit of the background about me and how I came to doing work in this particular area. But before I do, I want you to think about regrets that you have experienced or that you have felt. And what can we do about them? At this point, the focus is about making decisions that protect our future and not our feelings, okay? We want to begin to make decisions that protect our future and not our feelings. And so we can take the lessons that we've learned from those regrets, and that's what we want to learn about today. How do we take the lessons from our past and move and position ourselves to move forward with greater joy, without the regret that we felt in the past, but making decisions that are more values aligned. And so I'm going to share some things with you. I have an activity at the end. We'll see if time permits. If not, we will share that document with you so that you can, and feel free to share it with others. Because for some of you, you may say, I'm living my best life. I'm good. But for others of you, you may not be living your best life. Or for some of you, most of you, maybe all of you, you know people who are living life with regret. And so let me share a little bit about me and how I came to this journey. My life was filled with early childhood trauma, a lot of trauma over the years. And I was living at times somewhat bitter, frustrated, depressed, and living with a lot of regret. I wished I had, I should have, all of those kinds of things. And in 2003, I attended a conference titled Live Your Best Life. And during that conference, at the end, the coach offered a challenge. He said, I'm going to help only 4 of you who are interested in writing and publishing a book. And he said, and I will do pretty much everything for a very nominal fee. He said, I'm going to do pretty much everything, website, marketing, cover design, everything. But the catch was you had to write the book in 90 days or less. At that particular time, I was working on my dissertation proposal, and I was thinking, oh my God, I have so much to do. But my hand went up. I raised my hand and I thought, I have to do this. And that is when I wrote, It's All About Love, Living Your Purpose in Spite of Your Past. And in this particular book, I openly shared a lot of my own personal story about trauma and challenges, but really about overcoming adversity to live the life that you were born to live. And then fast forward, I began to travel and speak to women across the country. And what I was encountering was that as I began to share my story, women were opening up and sharing their stories. They were telling me things that they said they had never told anyone. They felt that they could be transparent with me. And what I was beginning to notice is that if you looked into the eyes, as you know, some will say the eyes are the window to the soul. And if you look in, I would look in some of the women's eyes and, you would see the sadness. If you look beyond the smiles. When I taught at full-time at Bowie State University, I was the faculty advisor for an enhancement organization. And I had a number of young ladies from across the campus who would come to me, and they would just sit in my office and they would tell me their stories. They would say, Dr. Love, I don't know if I want to go to grad school because in Pennsylvania, because my cousin lives there and we've been sleeping together. Like, you're sleeping with your first cousin. So here they were telling me all kinds of things about their life. And so when I looked beyond their smiles and looked into their eyes, I was seeing sadness. I was seeing this with a lot of women. And so I want to share this with you today because there may be some women that you encounter that are sitting next to you, even in a virtual room, or you're working with, who are really struggling. They're living life with lots of regret. And so I hope that you will take this information and share with them. And so as a result of many of the stories that the students were sharing with me and stories that I was hearing across the country, I wrote the book, I Want My Vagina Back. And this particular book really helps women to clearly define their core values, to align their values with their actions. And the goal is to minimize future regret. I always share that there's nothing that you can do to change what has happened in the past, but you can use those lessons to leverage those lessons to live a life with fewer regret. And so that particular book was turned into a stage production. I became the executive producer in 2016 and 17, and it was shown at the Baltimore Museum of Art. And so women across the country, as a matter of fact, outside of the country, have used this particular book, and it sparks conversations between generations. I've had therapists to use it, etc. In 2014, Tony Draper and I wrote the book, Life Happens, But You Can Finish. And this particular book shares stories of women in terms of how they move forward to finish what they start. Because that was something else that I was finding, that because of life regret and because of a lot of adversity or early childhood or early life trauma, people were not accomplishing the goals that they had set out to achieve. And so often people were asking me, well, how did you accomplish this? Were you able to finish school in spite of the challenges that you went through? How were you able to hit certain milestones and do certain things? And so this is a book that really shares a little bit about the stories of how people move forward to accomplish their goals. And so, as I mentioned, it's important for us to realize that there's nothing that we can do about the past, but we do want to make decisions that protect our future and not our feelings. So often we are becoming emotionally driven. And so today I want to share some things with you that are going to help you to align your values and actions so that you too can minimize the life regrets. Here are some of the objectives for today: is to understand the importance of values, actions, alignment. You want to recognize how values, actions, misalignment can lead to ongoing life regrets. We want to understand why values, alignment, and legacy focus can be protective factors. We want to identify some specific next steps for living life with fewer regrets. As I mentioned, there is an activity at the end. I'm going to share that on screen, but we will also email that out to you so that you can not only do one activity today, but to do all of the activities and to share it with others. So let's get clear in terms of values. What are values? Now, values are your fundamental beliefs. These are those guiding principles that really dictate your behavior, and they help you to distinguish what's right and wrong. Research suggests that values are relatively stable and that core beliefs really motivate and help you to assess your behavior. Let me go back here. Research also suggests that values are better predictors of behaviors than attitudes and interests. Now, As Tony Draper and I were working on Life Happens, But You Can Finish, one of the things that we came across is something called the disconnected values model. In this particular model developed by Mark and Shell, he says that there are positive and negative benefits for that there are positive and negative benefits for the things that we do. Okay, so you may have core values. However, that whenever your behaviors are inconsistent with those values, you're going to feel disconnected. Okay. And so there are also long-term and short-term outcomes that influence values alignment. So let me give you an example. So if your value is health, however, and you're living an extremely sedentary lifestyle, which means you're disconnected from your value of health. Okay. So you're going to feel disconnected. Sometimes people will experience cognitive dissonance. But here's the thing, as Mark Enshell says, there are positive and negative benefits to every single value, right? So the positive benefits of not doing or exercising is that you have more time to relax. That's a short-term benefit. But long-term, there are other negative benefits, such as illness and obesity. But depending on the perceived value or your perception about the short-term or long-term outcome is going to determine whether you remain disconnected or whether you become more aligned. And so I want you to begin to think about some of your core values. I want you to think about those. And if you have a piece of paper, I want you to write down your top 5 core values. What are they? And then I want you to begin to think about, to what extent are your daily practices, is your daily lifestyle reflecting those particular values? Okay, and I'm going to come back to that a little bit later. Because as you're looking at that, I want you to begin to think about, what are the positive benefits of me being consistent with my values, living very consistent with the values? What are the negative benefits of that? Again, if you're eating the ice cream or you're eating something that you know is not healthy for you, or you're not spending time with your family and you know that it's causing problems with your family, what are the positive benefits? What are the negative benefits of that? Okay, so I really want you to begin to think about that. So take a moment and write down your top 5 to 10 core values, or just at least 5 of them. What impacts our values alignment? What leads to us being disconnected? It's our priorities. What are you prioritizing during the course of the day? Do you have a list of, what is it that I want to accomplish today as it relates to something with my core values? It's beliefs that also affects our values alignment. And our physical and emotional health also affects it. Trauma, this is the thing that I found with many women that I've spoken with and that I've coached, is that many women have had adverse childhood experiences. And some of you may be familiar with the work done by Kaiser that looked at the extent to which people were experiencing health challenges. And it was pretty much a retrospective study at looking at people who were coming in for various health conditions. And what they were finding is that those individuals who had a variety of health conditions had experienced early childhood trauma. And so they developed something called the ACEs measure, which you may want to take a look at. It's available online. And if you score, I believe it's a 4 or higher, you are more likely to experience certain health conditions. So what people can use that measure for is to help individuals to identify, what's the likelihood that you may have certain health conditions, and what can we do now to intervene? I also will never forget the words of a particular dermatologist who said he was tired of seeing people weeping through their skin. He said that eczema and all kinds of other skin conditions, in some cases, were the result of emotional challenges. That if people were able to deal with their emotions, if they were able to deal with some of their stressors, that they would be able to clear up some of their health issues. Now, not always, but it is It's definitely shown through research that if you're able to address some of your stress and deal with your negative emotions, that you can actually deal with some of your physical health issues. So I just want to put that out there for you all to think about and again to share. So you can't influence everyone, but you can lead your own life. I really want you to think about that. And I want you to think about, what are you doing today to really lead your life instead of being driven? Are we being emotionally driven, or are we being pulled by external factors, or are we controlling our lives? That was one thing that I had to look at with my life because I had a lot of regret. I was looking at how the issues and situations of the past were controlling me and influencing my interactions, my relationships, my work decisions. And so I needed to begin to be more connected to my values. I needed to make sure that I was being driven on a daily basis by my values. Do I miss the mark? Absolutely. However, I can tell you that I have begun to live life with much fewer regret. That because the decisions that I'm making are more aligned, and I'm experiencing greater joy as a result. And I hope that you're going to do the same. Excuse me. And so, are you going to lead, or are you going to regret your life? Is the question. What are you going to do? Um, One of the things that I mentioned is about becoming legacy focused. This became very important to me and is also a part of what we talk about in terms of finishing. There are a lot of things that we set out to accomplish. How come? Why have you decided to pursue some of the things that you were pursuing? Why are you continuing along a path that does not affirm who you are? So, what I begin to focus on is being more legacy focused. The truth is, we all are going to expire at some point. And the question is, are you going to influence your footprint? Are you going to influence the mark that you're going to leave in the earth that others are going to be able to follow? And so I want you to begin to think about, what is that footprint that you'd like to leave in the earth? What is it that you really want to do? That starts today, because what you are building, what you are saying, whose life you are impacting, those who are around you, and the things that you're doing, it's going to be affecting people potentially for generations. I know that books that I've written will be around and are being passed along to people that I may never know are being impacted by what I've written. I know that other things that I've done will be left in the earth. It's interesting. My son said to me one time, because there was a specific goal that I really wanted to accomplish. And my son said, "Mom, there are some things that you may not finish. There are some things that maybe you were intended to start and pass the baton." Wow. When he said that, I thought, oh my goodness, you're absolutely right. Sometimes we think we have to carry something to completion, or that we were supposed to do something, but sometimes it's that you were to plant a seed that someone else is going to pick up the baton and carry to completion. Think about a running track, right? You have a 4x1, which my son used to run track, and someone, they'd pass that baton, they'd pass it, the next person, they would keep running. The idea is that it was accomplished. So I want you to consider how you can become more legacy focused, to begin to think about whether it's with your organization, whether it's with your own personal life. What are the things that you hope will be carried on well beyond the time that you're here? What is it that I like to tell people? To live your eulogy. If you were to write your eulogy, which is an activity that I take some people through, I want you to start with the end in mind, as Stephen Covey says. Write your eulogy. I want you to think about, what is it that you want to be remembered by? What is it that you hope people will say about you? And a lot of that has to do with how you're leading your life today. And so, in order to do that, if you're going to lead your life with fewer regrets, here are some next steps. Number one, dream and dream again. It's really interesting that a coach that I was working with some time ago, she said, "What are you dreaming about? What is it that's really in your heart to do that you're afraid of?" What is it, that thing that when you think about it, you go, oh, I'm not sure I can do that. She said, you've got to dream and dream again. And what I didn't realize was that I had started putting some of my dreams on hold, and I really had stopped dreaming. And so I realized, you know what? I really have to begin to dream big. I've got to not allow fear to control me. And I have to trust that if it is in my heart to do, that if God has placed something in my heart for me to do, that there is the provision, and I just have to walk into the manifestation of what already is. Dream and dream again. Because those things that are in you, you may think, I'm not sure I can do this now. Well, maybe not, but maybe so. But the key is to allow yourself to open up and dream. The next thing is you've got to clarify your core values. You've got to look at what are those key things that are important for you, not what other people have said is important. That's something that I've also found, that often people are being driven by what other people's expectations. Clarify your core values. And I want you to begin to look at whether or not those core values are being lived out on a daily, a weekly, a monthly basis. The next one is to identify your non-negotiables. Now, I read a book, called Non-Negotiables by Sam Silverstein. And in this particular book, they talk about, he was the founder of Happy State Bank in Texas. And one of the things that they looked at is his non-negotiables. He was able to use the non-negotiables to help him to expand the business. And so one of the things that he said was in this particular book is that you need to know what you believe, identify, reinforce, and take a stand for your beliefs, and learn what you control. He also said to value people and then develop all of this into your non-negotiables. And I'm going to read 4 of the non-negotiables that the founder had. His first one was do what's right. The second was to treat each co-owner at least as well as you treat your best customer. Another one was family first. Now think about that, a bank who says family's got to be first, no matter what. They also saw each other as a family, but they also believed that their immediate family, their family of origin, was very important and needed to be first. And here's another one that I found interesting, was to talk to each other. They said that often we think, people are, because they're working together, that they're talking to each other. Not necessarily the case. But these were just 4 of his 20 non-negotiables that he identified. Do you have non-negotiables for your life? Do you have non-negotiables for your business, for your work? I want you to really to think about that as well, okay? You want to align your values and your actions, as I mentioned. And I've already said this, is to live your eulogy. I've written my eulogy. Now, will that change? Possibly. But I know what it is I want people to say about me. And I know how that needs to be reflected in my daily life. Will they say it? Maybe, maybe not. But I know I'm leading my life in such a way that I want to minimize my regrets. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do as well. And the last one I want you to do is to teach, mentor, and document. I want you to think about the things that you can document. What are the things that you can pass on to others? How can you teach or mentor others in a way that they can carry those life lessons on? It's important for us to pass the baton. What do you need to document? We talk about succession planning in organizations, but what about for our life? What are aspects of our life that we can pass on to others? And so now I have an activity for you, and I want you to take out a piece of paper. And I'm going to stop this here, but I want to share on screen the document so that you can choose one of the activities. You can look at one of these activities. Let's see. Share. All right. Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to walk through these activities, but I want you to do number 6, okay? And I'll share the document so that you can do all of these. First, identify values misalignment and steps for values alignment in your life. So where is there misalignment? So that means that you've already identified your top 5 core values, and you may have more. The second one is identify what dreams or goals you have not focused on and what steps you can take this week in the direction of your dreams. Notice I didn't say next month, 2 months from now. Number 3, identify what life lessons or words of wisdom you'd like to share, who you want to share it with, and why. And then I want you to schedule time on your calendar in February to document what you want to share or to meet or talk with that person. Too often we put things off. We schedule our appointments, we schedule work and things for our children, but do we make time for ourselves and those things that are priorities and that are most important to us? Number 4, I want you to add a verb to your core values and identify how this should be reflected in your life. Values and verb addition examples. So if family is one of your core values, you might say, spend quality time with family. And then I want you to also identify how that's going to be reflected in your life. If making a difference is one of your core values, you could add seek opportunities to make a difference. So that's something else that I want you to do. Number 5 is to write a short message or record a message and send it to someone who you have been planning to contact or that you have been avoiding. Okay, you can write a short note. One of the things my son often does is to send a voice memo to me. He picks up the phone and he sends a message. I love it because I love hearing his voice. You might be surprised at the people who would love to hear from you just in a voice message or just in a voice memo that you send to their text, right? 30 seconds, 1-minute message that you send to people, or send a video. You can go on Zoom and just record a video or from your phone. Sit right there and just say, hi, how are you today? This is what I'm doing. I just wanted to say hello. I love you. I miss you. So long. 1 minute. Doesn't have to be long. Number 6 is to identify what part of your life you'd like to live on in some way. I want you to identify who you're going to share that with and when. So this is where you get to write your eulogy. Okay? You want to write your eulogy. And then the last one is to set a daily or weekly intention for an action you want to take that affirms you in your life. These are simple things that you can do to begin to live life with fewer regrets. As I mentioned, there's not much that you can do about the past, but you can live life in such a way as, to minimize any future regret. So I want to pause for a second and I want you to write down what part of your life you'd like to live on in some way. And who are you going to share that with and when? So take a moment and write that down. What is it about your life? If you were writing that eulogy, what do you want people to remember? Just want to take a pause for a second for you to do that. Anyone like to share very quickly one thing that you'd like to live on? Can someone please share? I'm going to take you off for a second. Yes, Mary Jean?
So 2 things. One, I put in the chat the Barrett Value Center, which has a personal values assessment that makes it easier to assess your core values. But what I want to have live on is to helping people to think differently about aging, and that you are retiring something, not retiring from something. So you're retiring a job, a career, you're shedding it, not that you're being put out to pasture.
Nice.
Okay.
Okay. Very nice. Yes. One other person. I know, because I want to be respectful of time. Can someone else share?
Hi,
Stephanie?
this is Stephanie. Mine is being passionate about helping others be the best version of themselves.
Awesome. Okay. So hopefully you'll go back and look at the other activities to make sure you're setting intentions to do that. Absolutely. That's awesome. Thank you. I want to just to be respectful of the time, I want to share something in closing with you. And that is a poem that is by Dr. Donna Markova. Okay. And it's called Living Wide Open. It comes from the book, I Will Not Die an Unlived Life. I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit. I will not die an unlived life. Ladies, you are in the driver's seat of your life. I hope that you will clarify your values, align your values and your actions, and live a life with fewer regret. I want to thank you for this opportunity. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. So thank you. Rebecca, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Terrific. Thank you so much. I thought that was extraordinarily powerful, and I will get all of the slide deck and the handouts that Dr. Pam had out to all of you. I want to thank you all for spending your morning with us. And thank you, Dr. Manning, for sharing your expertise. Just a few little housekeeping things as we close. We do have our next Retool and Reframe session, March 2nd. Gina Ramsey is going to talk to us about putting your best self forward. Then we're going to finish up the series with Dr. Stephanie Knight from the University of Maryland talking about self-care during COVID, and that's going to be March 16th. For the rest of this week, we are so excited to support the Afros Black Business Expo. We're having a booth there, and my goal today is to get our video virtual booth together. So that's a fun developing skill. Next week, we also have our Board Ready Boot Camp. So if you have not participated in that, please go ahead and do that. And we've got lots of good things coming up. So thank you for being with us, and we'll see you again next time.